Never Say Die, a record label known well in the EDM industry, especially recognized within the bass scene. One of the strong pillars of dubstep, and hundreds knew right away of the geometric symbol if they happened to see it. Raise your hand if you have supported Never Say Die in any way, shape, or form, from listening to the music in the record label to attending the shows in person, or even meeting some of these DJs/producers that have thrown down in various sets. Congratulations, you are a bass head that will never say die. And if any producers/DJs released official songs under this record label, thank you for giving and sharing your talented, unique sounds to this pool. Never Say Die was a record label that focused on bass music, which involved the following EDM categories: dubstep, drumstep, drum and bass, trap, and surprisingly, a little bit of electro house, along with a sprinkle of other categories, but mainly focused on the first four that I mentioned. There are subcategories that stood apart from the main ones, including deathstep, breakbeat, tear out, glitch hop, and more. Running for over a decade, this record label was a force to be reckoned with for the bass heads and headbanging lovers. Within this video, we will be looking at just that, the birth to the end of a powerful yet gargantuan record label that some didn't believe that it exited the music scene on a certain day. This is the C&D Project REPRISED edition, covering Never Say Die. Alright, a small heads up, a good amount of the info you will hear was paraphrased from a podcast by the content creating YouTuber EDM Prod, specifically a podcast episode number 158. The host, Aiden, and special guest Nick explain in an hour or so about Never Say Die, other interesting backstories and advice in Nick's journey to sound. Link will be in the EDM box below, and this will be an updated version from the original video that I did years ago, for that video has now been wiped from my YouTube channel. In its place is going to be a modern reprised version of this documentary, mainly because of the audio voice and with me trying to find more info with the record label. But mainly all of this is going to be paraphrased from that old said video. Now with that said, onto the video. Before the creation of Never Say Die, Nick was studying music as a youngster and mentions his interest in the noises within the hip-hop music. One day, he looks at the front of a magazine and something caught his eye. He states the cover mentioning creating sounds while reading passages of the Chemical Brothers, along with other artists/producers. He then wondered, how do you make these sounds? And I want to know how to do them. So he soon got an application called Rebirth with the help from others and started going at it with messing around and creating his own sounds. He then went up for a music competition, running second place after numerous weeks into making his own sound. Along with the numerous outings with listening to the music in the undergrounds/nightclubs, Nick eventually goes at it with networking and meets someone by the name of Tommy Dash. This connection was the birth of Never Say Die. With this unique record label, Never Say Die was created in 2009, founded by the two individuals of Tommy Dash, a part of Schism, and Nick Sadler, part of Mob Scene. These two decided to create the record label as to show their music and release other producers that were coming up into the bass scene. As time went on, Nick in particular saw a huge door with being behind the scenes of music production and went on to the marketing business side for the label. Nick also mentioned that it is important to already have people on the inside supporting you to get in and do something with the music, especially within the EDM world. Something that was an eye-opener as he mentions of connecting with others, he also collaborated with another producer that was skilled on the drums by the name of Pat. He used to be a part of a band called State of Mind in the late 2000s to early 2010s, and was the second partner in crime with a project by the name Mode Step. Some of you may be familiar with this project. What many would not know, some of the OG producers started out with this record label, including Flux Pavilion, Zomboy, Foreign Beggars, Aptic, and many more. One veteran bass DJ and producer that started his name in the early to mid 2000s, in particular that didn't have any official releases with the label, but learned from the label himself. This was a Canadian that went by the name Excision. His early learnings with Never Say Die was one of the small reasons he became immensely popular and talented, creating his own gargantuan name in the EDM universe. Although it took years of gathering info to bring his vision forward, X finally created his personal record label, Subsidia Records, in 2020. Going onto a small side quest from the Never Say Die documentary, having three pillars in his record label, Dusk, Night, and Dawn, X did gather pointers and ideas with Never Say Die to shape his very own bass record label. Returning to the topic of Never Say Die, Nick was very happy that this record label was being one of the most popular waves of dubstep music hitting the United States at the time. And with one of the most important things in the music industry is to find that unique community or create your own opportunities and be a part of it, keeping it consistent and commutative networking. Nick goes into some details of self-releasing in a do-it-yourself environment that I strongly recommend you listen to this particular part as to why some projects fall short and dwindle from the music scene. And as a little fun fact, that an article I did mention of how record labels just crumble to pieces, only 20% of record labels will survive within the first 2 years of their stance in the music world. With this subject, Nick was once responsible for managing an old-timing dubstep duo called Dodge and Fusky. Rob then took a huge interest in wanting to start his own record label. Aiding Dodge and Fusky as well as Myro that soon tagged along, they branched out into their own label to what is now known as Disciple that sits in Los Angeles, California. While Never Say Die was more of everyone does their own thing and we slay it out when it goes ham, Disciple was once focused on being family oriented. This included having massive label collabs such as Get Lemon, We Don't Play, and my personal favorite, How We Roll. Having a studio hub that any member in the record pool of Disciple was able to go through, relax, and maybe get some collab work done while others were visiting around the area. Before jumping back into NSD, one thing in particular that I was able to learn about Disciple was through Rob himself, as I got to meet him personally not too long ago from me making this video. What happened in his project as he took a very long hiatus from creating music, and he does mention that he is coming back to personally release music under Monster Cat. But I would like to go more into detail if I am to cover Dodge and Fusky as a separate video documentary series for my Electric DM10, if that ever happens. But going back to Never Say Die, there were some spews that did happen years later after Nick aided Rob with Disciple. Before we touch up on that small little drama, we're going to be taking another side quest that involves Never Say Die, but this time a unique record label within a record label, and that is Never Say Die Black Label. Starting up in 2014 was a new branch of NSD called Black Label. This label was focusing more with the heavier side that will still be a part of Never Say Die, but with its own category. Something to only please the absolute hard-hitting bass heads to listen and enjoy. Taking it from my personal opinion, with this side record label that is a part of Never Say Die, they went on to a pretty significant number of years before closing its doors, which happened on March 16th, 2021. The Black Label announces their official end, leaving Never Say Die to continue running. A reason why this child branch closed was the releasing of some Black Label songs being a bit more melodic than Never Say Die submissions, and some of the Never Say Die songs ended up being heavier than the releases on the Black Label, which was then placed under the official record label of Never Say Die. According to the official website of Never Say Die's Black Label page, the first release was actually a mix that is still on SoundCloud at the time of this recording and posting, and it's been 10 years since the first Never Say Die mix was up on its SoundCloud page. The last release was Sickhead by Trampa on March 19th, 2021. Keep in mind that a few of the releases would be a part of EPs, so these would be within the count of an EP, as well as some releases that have 2 or 3 song bundles. Each one will have their own count as a single. The total that you see on the screen goes as follows: the singles being at 59, the EPs being at 101 releases, while the rest of these releases are under the double-digit numbers, some of them having 5, some of them having only 1, 2, and 3. Total releases with Never Say Die Black Label would be 180. Scanning into Never Say Die's Black Label releases, there were a few surprises that I did catch. Some of the artists that submitted their songs now have come up to be significantly recognized in the EDM scene as of 2025, and it was thanks to Never Say Die's Black Label for having these unique DJs and producers to have a fair stance inside the EDM world, and they go by the following: Badclat, Leotrix, Sonium Sounds, Midnight Tyrannosaurus, and there's a bunch more that I would go on. Few of them took massive names to the stage, like Mastodon, now known as Murata, and especially these two titans of the bass scene, Sudden Death, along with his side Alice, Void, and Subtronics. Best to look particularly all the songs on the most popular music streaming platforms such as SoundCloud, Spotify, or Amazon, as there are various links on the website leading to dead ends. But give it a try yourself, because I'm not going to be going through each and every single one of the links to see if each one of them work. Now, returning to the interesting drama that happened with Never Say Die and with Disciple. Within late 2017, Schism fired these images on his Bluebird, I'm leaving that edit there, on his Bluebird profile, now X, calling out Disciple, mainly the founders, Myro and Dodge, for the reasons of copying his own label's tactics. This was a disapproval, disowning, I don't know what the proper term is. So the video that is showing briefly on the screen, he mentions how can you lead when your name mentioning Disciple means to follow. Trying to add more gasoline into the fire, he even mentioned the following producers at the time that they were starting out: Virtual Riot, Barely Alive, Dubloads, and Oracle, which honestly, they were just doing their thing to keep the label going from the start of square one into where it used to be. All members have exited the record label as of 2025 and are carrying their own names in different volumes. In the end, this was some small beef that was brought up. Maybe he was bored. Maybe he just wanted to get a little rival out. But what do you ravers think? Was there more into this? Moving forward a couple of years into the early 2020s, mainly on April 2nd, 2022, Never Say Die announces their 13-year run was coming to an official close. The image of the goodbye message to the world is on their social media pages. The label mentions that they have done everything they wanted to accomplish and more. It was time to move on to other things. One of the things that Nick now focuses on is a record label teaching approach for others that are interested in making their own musical record labels. This is in a book called The Label Machine. And Nick also has a website to this course for mass information. Link will be the EDM box below. With the discography for Never Say Die's submissions, according to the official website, the first release was Freestylers featuring Belle Humble Cranks Control Z remix. Did I say cranks or cracks? It's cracks. Blah. There is a music video to this, and the final release being Angelware from Mazdai. My bad for misreading the song title. Keep in mind that some of the releases would be a part of EPs, LPs, and such, so these would be within the count of an EP, LP, and so on, as well as some releases that have 2 or 3 song bundles. Each one will have their own count as singles, and they are the following with the total submissions for Never Say Die. The singles will be a total of 136 releases, EPs coming very close to being 130 official releases. Remix EPs would be with 16 releases. Remix album are just 4, with Never Say Die's 10-year anniversary for VIP. Volumes with 6, the Black Label with 3, LPs with 4, and albums with 4. Specials with mixed compilations will be a total of 3, going into the pool total of releases 306. And here are a few surprises that I did catch. Samplifier and eCraze's Dead Zone not on the website due to a 404 error. It leads me to this eerie 404 page, but the song is on SoundCloud and Spotify. Deadman Vulgaration Kreiner Remix is also not on the website due to a 404 error. It leads me but the song is also on SoundCloud and Spotify. Another fun note to point out, I thought Must Die's Chaos, Empathy Rush, and Funeral Zone, along with Misery System, was part of an EP, but it turns out that each song represents a single on this list. Lastly, Habstract used to be in the dubstep and glitch hop back in the days as he was starting out in making his music, but is now a deep house and bass music producer that has received slots in massive festivals including EDC Las Vegas 2021. Well, this will conclude the C&D Project Series Reprised edition of Never Say Die. And if you, the viewer, have made it from beginning to end, I would like to say thank you for sticking around with my documentaries. More documentaries are in the blueprints, and I cannot wait to continue on with the Electric DM10 and waiting for that right time of the final releases for my new series of documentaries, which will be the Electric DM Hall of Fame. And it's going to be a pretty unique one, which I want to make in very lengthy videos, and these ones are going to be only for the titans of the electronic dance music world that have shaped this category in the definition of music. Thank you all so much once more, ravers. Feel free to see the EDM box below, as it will be filled with the resources that I got and the websites for Never Say Die, along with the Black Label and my social sites for my EDM shenanigans. Are there any songs that you still hold dear into your raving hearts that Never Say Die released? Are there any DJs and producers that you still follow their music to this day thanks to Never Say Die? Let me know in the comments, ravers. Lastly, keep listening, stay safe, and rave on.